Welcome to the viewers once again. Me and Simon are going to have a nice lekker chat. This is not a Suidlanders chat program, but this is one of the live letters from Russia that Simon does for us. And he said, I think it would be nice if me and him will just have a chat about Russia and things that's going on and the observations that you have noticed while being there in Russia.
Yeah, this is a complaint. This is the complaints, the suggestions box. How to improve. Uh, how to improve Russia. Um, yeah, Marius, I'll kick off by saying some Americans. I do obviously lots of international interviews, and I've been doing interviews in which there's a live chat. Sorry, I'm going to try and get this light right. Sorry, everybody. There we go. That'll be much better.
Yeah.
And Americans have been in their chats. I'm trying my damnedest to hold this phone properly and rest my arm so that it can be steady. Of these interviews, how many fat people has Simon seen in Russia? So I've been keeping a strict tally from day one. 29 so far.
Wow.
I'm not talking about babushkas, old grannies, women who've had children, or big men, big people who are big boned with muscle. Later on in life, your belly gets slack. I'm not talking about a 50 or 60-year-old guy who's overweight by 10 kilograms. That's nothing. That's not morbid obesity. That's not the product of years of eating McDonald's. That's just aging. And I also cut some slack for a few kilograms here and there. So I cut slack for age, particularly in women, and I cut slack for a few kgs. Yeah, there are no fat people. Yeah, well, there are a few. They're 29 apparently. And I've been all over the show, as you know. I've been to the Kremlin. I've been to 3 or 4 very, very senior government related entities. I don't want to exaggerate. I haven't had tea with the Minister of Finance or something, but I have been down to the very heart of Moscow, where there are certain mansions and buildings with certain professors and institutes and people devoted to international relations and BRICS and you name it. And I'm here in the suburbs, and I go down to the shopping center, the big shopping center, the Kaleidoscope, here in Tushino, Tushino, but pronounced Tushino, in the northwest of Moscow. I've had an opportunity to see, if this had been South Africa, by now I would have seen, I don't know, maybe today I think it's day 20, maybe upper 300s, 400.
Yeah.
Proper fat people. Which is not to insult fat people. This is the question I keep on getting. Are there fat people in Russia? No, they are not. If it was the USA, it would have been maybe 2,000 people, like for like. You've spent 20 days, you've done the same amount of traveling in the same sorts of environments. Yeah. So we're not going to complain about all the fat people, but we have some complaints. Number one, this thing of the Tajikis. Marius, I don't know how these people are not fat because they all eat takeaways. Okay, the takeaways are healthy, but they have a delivery service. They've got a number of delivery services here where the Central Asians, this like river of migrants coming into Russia to take advantage of the incredible burgeoning of the economy. These Tajiks, Uzbeks, Turkmen, Kyrgyz and Kazakhs, and people from the Caucasian republics, Chechens and Dagis and Avars, come to Moscow to do whatever work, and many of them end up delivering food. And they have electric motorcycles and electric scooters here, like children's scooters, where you scoot with your foot. Yeah, put your foot on a platform between two wheels, and there's a long bar with a handlebar on it, and you stand up straight and you scoot with your one foot, the handlebar equivalent of a skateboard. And these guys deliver food. Okay, so they do that on the electric motorcycles. The scooters are the locals. Everybody rides scooters. There are hundreds of thousands of them. And these guys are a menace. They make up their own rules of the road. Everything here is orderly and disciplined. Nobody breaks the rules. There's no graffiti. There are no broken windows. None. I've not seen one single broken window, even in derelict sites. Can you believe that?
Sure.
And then amongst all of this orderliness, you get these guys, they cross the road, they drive on the pavements instead of the road so that they can get around the traffic. And if you're walking on the pavement, you don't hear them because it's electric, and they come past you, and I've almost been taken out that closely. I don't mean almost, as in 600 millimeters, 60 centimeters. I mean by an inch and a half, 3 times. And it's sickening to see these foreigners come in and decide, stuff that, we're going to do things our way, like the immigrants in Britain from Pakistan. Complaint number 2 is that the same people, I'm very sorry to say it, are the people who will crook you. If you want to get overcharged for a bottle of water because you don't know any better, because Cyrillic is a tricky alphabet and Russian is a tricky language. It is a difficult language among the world languages. It's not the most difficult. Some say that Polish, which is a closely related language to Russian, is the world's most difficult language. So it's not the most difficult, but it is a difficult language. It's not an easy language. So you can't read and understand things. Well, if you want to get robbed because you're ignorant, buy from a Central Asian or a Southern Caucasian. It's happened to me 3 times now. If you want somebody to try to juke you on a hotel room and tell you that you owe for 4 nights instead of 3, make sure you stay at a Central Asian hotel. You'll get crooked. Mark my words. So yeah, that's a menace. It's a menace. And those are all the complaints I have, Marius.
Wow, it's a lot. Do you think it's a cultural thing for them to, by their nature, just to eat more healthier and thus be less obese?
Yeah, I think so. Look, the story of Russia is a very complicated story, and I'm going to infuriate the Russians who watch this video. I'm really going to upset them because I've become aware in recent months, over the period of time that I did the research in anticipation of this tour. And then, of course, acutely so over the past 3 weeks, that the Russian story is not a painting, it's a tapestry. And I'm going to be forced to oversimplify. Otherwise, we'll be here all day long.
Yeah.
But prior to the revolution, or the 2 revolutions of 1917, the February Revolution and the interim government, the provisional government, they call it, Kerensky's government, and then the October Revolution of 1917, and communism coming in. Prior to that, it was a feudal society. With some exceptions, yes, there were merchants and what have you, but by and large, it was aristocracy, middle class, and proletariat, and then the serfs and the peasants and what have you. So those people ate according to tradition. If you were rich Russian, you could gorge on whatever, pork, chicken, beef, you know. If you were a middle class Russian, you ate like your and my middle class ancestors did 140 years ago, Marius.
Mm-hmm.
And so on. And the serfs and the peasants and what have you ate a very sparing diet. Then you had Soviet times when everybody was supposedly equal. And of course, there were huge differences. We know that the Soviet nomenclatura, the named class, nomen as in name, the named people, could get access to all sorts of good food, but there were very few of them, that elite, and the rest ate Soviet food, which wasn't marvelous. Now, of course, it's different. You can eat Rostiks every day. Rostiks is the people who bought out KFC when they wanted to leave, and they left here. I mean, so they do have access to awful Western food.
Yeah.
Now, you know, since the fall of the Soviet Union and the introduction of all of the, I don't want to say Western because it's not really Western. It's American. I'm sorry to say it, but McDonald's is in Europe because it exists in America, not because Europe was desperate for McDonald's. They would have come up with their own. In fact, when it was either KFC or McDonald's, when they opened their first shop in France in the 1990s, there were protests. The French said, "Don't bring that stuff here."
Yeah.
So not to, you know, excuse my crass language, but this is the expression, not to shit on the poor Americans again, but it just is American food as opposed to Western food. There's very little rubbish in Germany. If you go into one of those beautiful food shops in Germany, the majority of the food is fantastic. I just got reprimanded for speaking too loudly outside the block of flats. Russians do that. They'll put you in your place and there'll be no grievance.
Yeah.
The 5 minutes later, they'll, you know, help you with something. It's not like you've upset us now and we're anti you. No. The next thing they do will be to help you with something. They are so helpful. Russians are so helpful. It's embarrassing sometimes, Marius. You get scum. You think, hey, you know, leave me alone. You're making me look like a cripple. Yeah. So there's no harm meant by that. Just put me in my place, and when she walks back, she'll give me a smile and a wave. So yeah, they have access to that awful food, and you will start to see more and more unhealthiness. As a matter of interest, I'm digressing slightly here, but they have pharmacies everywhere. And I've been asking people, if you're not sick, okay, there's a lot of elderly. There's the right proportion of elderly. You see elderly people all over the show. But aside from the elderly, the rest of you all look so healthy or so normal, let's say. Why do you have pharmacies on every second corner? It doesn't stand to reason. That you could understand in the USA, but there are more pharmacies here than in the USA, far more.
Okay.
And it took me 2 weeks to get the answer. I only got there almost 3 weeks. The reason is because in winter, the winters here being so ferocious, people cough and get pneumonia and flu and colds and what have you. And the winter's so bitter, you don't want to go far to a pharmacy. You want one within 5 minutes walking distance. So there's now this culture of hundreds of thousands, millions of small little pharmacies within walking distance. And their existence is justified entirely by these ferocious Russian winters.
Yeah.
Which is very so yeah, Marius, I think you will see changes in the health of Russians, but I think that they're conscious of it. If the subject comes up, they're pretty conscious of the fact that they don't want to become Westerners. They don't want to become obsessed by wealth and food and other material and fleshly things.
Yeah.
To answer your question, that was a bit of a long answer.
Okay. Yeah. No, I can understand and see that. I mean, like you've said, the 30 strides that they have taken forward since 1990 will also show that they have become more westernized when it comes to like the KFC that they have there, or the McDonald's that used to be there. They've got something else now in the place of McDonald's. When America told them they can't have it anymore, it was like a week, and then they made something else up in the in the place of McDonald's. That was fantastic. I loved it when they did that. Yeah, but
Only
yeah.
Burger King had the courage to stick it out.
Oh wow.
And they are
Okay.
laughing all the way to the bank because there's some kind of appeal to foreign things. It's just a natural thing. So when all of the foreign food brands left and only Burger King remained, they got a kind of a disproportionate share of the market. They didn't pick up everything that McDonald's and what have you left. No, the Rostix did, and the new McDonald's did. They kept their share of the market, but Burger King, is the foreign one, the
Yeah.
glamorous one, the exotic one, if you like, the
Yes. Yes.
only one.
Okay.
They are laughing all the way to the bank, and and McDonald's and KFC must be crying long tears because these guys bought them out for good prices, for a song, got absolutely everything, and they're doing a roaring trade. For instance, Rostix, the new KFC, existed previously, but it was small. Somebody gave this guy an enormous loan, however many $1 billion, to buy up all of the KFCs across Russia. And now Rostix has become, let's say Rostix had 3 shops and KFC had 17,
Yeah.
or 300,000 and 1,000,007, whatever. Rostix hasn't gone from doing 3 to 20. Rostix has gone from doing 3 to 25, because what's happened in the process is that people have decided that Rostix is super good.
Yeah.
So he had his small operation, then he bought out the big one, and somehow in that process, Russians decided, he must have been better than we thought all along. Why aren't we eating more Rostix?
Yeah.
So they're making money for free. And they're laughing all the way to the bank, Marius.
Yeah. Okay, now then a question for all the Afrikaner boerseuns here in South Africa especially. How are they with eating meat? Are they similar to us? They like steaks, they like the chops, the whatever meats. We like our red meat a lot. How is the Russians when it comes to eating meat?
They're not like us. It's not that they're averse to meat, not at all. And you can get a far, far better variety here in Russia than you can in South Africa, of flesh products, because fish is so big and pork is so big, and turkey and goat and you name it. So there's a better variety, but less of it is consumed. per capita.
Okay.
So they're not against it. They love it. And the first night I was here, I went to, they put on 2 braais. Put on a late afternoon braai and then a late night braai. So I ate about 1.5 kilograms of meat in the span of about 6 hours. So yeah, they like meat, but they like other stuff. They like salads a lot and soups. And I have to say, it's a very healthy way of eating. As you know, Marius, I'm meat. I don't know anybody else whose diet contains a higher percentage or proportion of meat than mine.
Yeah.
I eat only meat. But there is something to be said for salads and soups and healthy food. I cook soup about twice a month from those meat cuts that are not really suitable for frying. When I buy a sheep carcass or a lamb carcass, I make stews and what have you. So I do eat some healthy food, but I eat flipping braai flakes for 4 or 5 meals a day, probably 6 days a week. I just love meat, particularly fatty meat. And now that in recent years science has discovered that there's a correlation between Alzheimer's and senile dementia and low cholesterol. The first Alzheimer's cases were diagnosed 4 years after the first cholesterol pills were put on the market in the late 70s in the USA. We know now that it's cholesterol pills that destroy your brain because your brain is made up 75% of myelin, and myelin is composed 100% of or by cholesterol.
Yeah.
So now I eat fatty meat with a vengeance. So yeah, speaking as a meat crazy person, even I must acknowledge that their diets are very, very healthy, extremely healthy, Marius. Again, long-winded, but hopefully useful reply to your straightforward question.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Otherwise, on my side, I'm not sure what else there is. You've said in your other letters how good the transport is and the cars and the things like that. So, is there anything that you would like to also just like put a pin in and say, listen, this is something else?
Okay, let me tell you the story, and I don't know that it's true. In fact, I suspect that it's untrue, but this is what I was told. You see a lot of fancy cars here, Maybachs, S500. You know, I mean, it's just, and I've seen a few vehicles unmarked, so you can see that they are. There's a correct word. I think it's grand touring vehicles. You know, like the highest level S series Mercedes, 7 Series BMW, whatever. But there's no insignia on them. Nothing. So I asked the Russian guy, what car is that? I said, this is like the 4th one I've seen. He said, oh, no, they're custom made. I said, what do you mean they're custom made? Custom made by who? If I get a custom made Mercedes, in fact, my S500 that I picked up some years ago, for a song, because the Rupert family was getting rid of it and they weren't interested in the price. I got it for 63,000 Rand. My S500 is custom built. It was custom built for Johan Rupert's father. But it says Mercedes all over it.
Yeah.
I said, what do you mean it's custom built? No. The super wealthy have cars made to their own specifications with no by Mercedes or Koenigsegg or whoever, and there's no the brand does not brand the motor vehicle, and it costs like whatever $10 million a car or who knows how much.
Yeah.
So I don't believe that that's true, but that's what I was told.
Wow. Okay.
You can't believe the stuff you see of Marius. Honestly, it's another world. But nice people. Oh, Marius, so nice. Yeah, not nice in a gushing way. Not you walking around with an idiotic smile on their faces, promising to see you next Tuesday and not meaning one single word of it. No, just nice in an ordinary way. And if you battle a little bit, they'll run around to help you. I went into a shop looking for a Russian phrase book about 3 hours ago, and I had 3 women running around like blue bottle flies to find me a book, and on the computer, this, that, and the next thing. They're just very, very helpful. The service is unbelievable, Marius.
Yeah.
Yeah, very, very nice place. And that is the sum total of my complaints. Marius, I'll be putting them in writing. You may rest assured of that.
Yeah, well, a lot. It sounds like a lot to to complain about, right? Yeah, no, I've never thought of myself wanting to travel to Russia, but I'm really starting to, if it ever comes my way and I am able to choose a destination to travel to, I think Russia might move to the top of my list after experiencing it through you, that's sending us this content, this videos, and talking to us about how the people is, how the land is, how it's operating. I mean, it really sounds great.
It is. It is. It's a hidden gem. There's something you have to see it to appreciate how much of it is concealed from us in the West. And that sounds like some ridiculous conspiracy theory. Okay, fine, fine. But I invite every American, every Austrian, every whatever to come to Russia and decide for themselves,
Yeah.
or for themselves, whether or not there is a peculiar, inexplicable concealment of some description of Russia in the open narrative of the West, on YouTube, on whatever platform, in the newspapers, on television. What there is an anomalous, inexplicable absence of exposure of Russia. Come and decide for yourself if I'm a liar or an exaggerator. It's a blooming nice place, Maurice. You never regret it, and it's quite cheap. You know, if you come for a week, I'm not saying that money grows on trees, and I couldn't have afforded this trip. I needed a sponsor, and I'm very, 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 very grateful to Vessel for the opportunity. As I said to him, not for myself, because I'm not jolly patrolling. It's not like I'm exploring the nightlife or whatever. Working. But you know, it's less than 20 grand an air ticket. Okay, money doesn't grow on trees. People, many Suidlanders don't have 2,000 rand, never mind 20. But it's a relatively cheap destination. For 20 grand and 5,000 rubles a day, so 1,000 rand a day. So for 30 grand, you can get a 10-day holiday, a nice 10-day holiday, and you could probably do it for 25 if you tried hard enough. If you got a ticket at the right time of year for 12,000 rand or something, you could probably come for a 10-day holiday for 20 grand. And you can't do that in the USA. I mean, the hotel room that I've been staying in for 2.5 weeks would not have cost a dollar under $75 at the Motel Sixes, you know, the biggest chain across the USA. Practically the only place Satan stayed in the year that we've toured the USA over 9 years. We've spent a year in the USA. $75 at least. And it cost me 2,300, so 23, 25, 26, $27 ish. So it's about a third the price, like for like.
Sure. Wow.
So yeah, if you've got money to go on holiday to the USA, for a third of that money, you can have the equivalent holiday in Russia, but probably actually a quarter. The accommodation will cost you about a third. Air ticket, like for like. Food, much less. Travel, much, much, much less. And
Yeah.
that's it, Maurice. I think we might be running out of time.
Yeah, we've got a couple of minutes left. Thanks, Simon, for your complaints letter from Russia. We will be sure to use that as the title for this live one. And then, yeah, let's hope we have a nice chat as well tomorrow, like I said previously, on the train while you're traveling.
I look forward to it, Marius. Look very much forward to it.
Cheers, Simon. Have a good one.
Cheers, Marius. Thank you very much. All of the best to you and to everybody else.
Thanks, man. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.